And then I noticed the toilet paper
So,
is over on the wall.
are we, Robbie, you ready?
No,
All right, let's go ahead and get started.
Oh,
We are going to start with an agenda review. Welcome to the work session for today. All the normal stuff in the beginning. Anybody have anything on the minutes? If not, we will have our public comments and then staff reports. The first item on the agenda is public hearing on a rezoning of 210 acres. Mike, you want to talk to us about that?
I guess I can do that. It's a work session, not regular meeting. Yes. So this is a public hearing on a proposed rezoning of Arosa Grove, a 210.72 acre RL property, two separate parcels proposed to be rezoned to HMMU, which is mixed use hamlet. It's on Campbellton Red Wine Road, which is a state highway, so GDOT will be involved with the entrances. It also has two frontages on Caps Ferry Road, divided by a 10-acre parcel that's inset in the proposed plan. There's no access planned for those frontages except for one unpaved for bike ped and emergency vehicles, so no regular traffic going out onto the unpaved Caps Ferry Road. It is surrounded by some single family homes and mostly vacant land. They're showing 71% of the property protected as open space and as civic space. And they're showing 150-foot buffers all the way around. The plan proposes 210 residential units along with 8,450 square feet of retail, restaurant, or commercial space. They got a couple of amenities buildings and a barn and some stables. All those are in the northwestern portion of the site, which is where the entries are. And then there are some townhomes around those properties. And then farther back into the site are cottage and estate lots. It's showing paths throughout, planned for horses and I guess pedestrians, maybe bikes. And we have a recommendation from Planning Commission for approval with conditions. Most of the conditions are pretty much boilerplate. There are several that have been added, which I'd be happy to go through. The first relates to the vehicular access on Caps Ferry Road, which I just mentioned. The second has to do with the fact that there is a cemetery along Highway 70. Campbellton Red Wine Road that just barely extends onto the property, and the applicant has agreed to map it using ground penetrating radar. Anyway, survey the cemetery, find out its extents. That portion of the site, of course, is just buffer anyway, so there was no plan to build in that area, but they have agreed to get it mapped so we know where the extents are. And then there are some wetlands on the site, and so before the approval of the preliminary plat in that area, any wetlands will be delineated. So we'll have to know exactly where the extent of that is. And then finally, I mentioned the 10-acre inset property along Caps Ferry Road. We had the owner of that property in here and expressed some concern about possibility of some of the traffic, maybe horse traffic or whatever, coming onto their property. The applicant has agreed to construct a fence along the boundary of the property. I know that the applicant was included in the email where we discussed this, but I have not heard directly from the applicant about whether they're happy with the language, but it seems to be pretty good. 3-rail wood fence with wire at the bottom to keep dogs in, and it would completely surround the property, except not necessarily along the road. So everywhere that property abuts the applicant's property, they would build for this homeowner a fence. So those are the non-boilerplate conditions.
And again, they recommended approval in the Planning Commission with those conditions. Applicants in the room, applicant is okay with the language on the fence? Yeah. Okay, any questions from council? Okay, awesome. All right, next up is the village rezoning, and I think where are we on that?
So, right, so for the next two, I wasn't planning on talking a whole lot about
'Cause
what
we're
the
gonna defer.
application is. For the village, in particular, we still lack several things. We don't have the final notice of decision. Actually, I think I have the final language, but we don't have the signed notice of decision from
Right.
Greta. So it's imminent, but we don't have it. The city council shouldn't act without it. We don't have conditions in the packet. And we don't have a recommendation yet from the planning commission. So there are three, I think, important reasons for the city council to go ahead and defer this item.
And that's the plan right now is to defer, sorry.
Well, we don't have conditions. We do have a new letter from the applicant, right, that states they won't adhere to conditions. Am I reading that right?
I don't have a
Oh, she's talking about the
constitutional.
what's that thing
assertion.
called? Yeah, the constitutional claim letter.
Oh, right. Oh, okay, right. It does mention conditions in the final paragraph of that, but it doesn't say what the conditions are.
That is a boilerplate thing that attorneys that are working for, I wish Rick was here right now. We'll come back to that one. Rick.
Come back to that one.
I can speak to it if you like. The letter's from me, ma'am, and the attorney for the applicant.
Yeah, okay.
And it's primarily language that protects the applicant, which is in very, most similar application which is filed. Basically, I think the provision referring to talks about conditions need to be approved by the applicant. With the council.
And again, that is a setting out of their understanding of Georgia's constitutional protections around property rights, and it does not mean that we are restricted. It
Okay.
just means that they.
Just wanted to clarify
if they
that.
don't like something. And that's Rick's take on it too, but I would love to have him say it, so when he comes here, we'll ask him that again. The next one is the same one we were just talking about.
Creative Land.
Oh, I'm sorry, creative, sorry, yes.
Yeah, okay, so Merrill Park and Creative Land are not on for public hearings. They've had their public hearings in the planning commission, well, both of these, I should say, will be. The planning commission continued their public hearing on the Merrill Park application last time. So that public hearing will be opened again or continued at their next meeting. So there will be public comment in their next meeting, which is a week from Thursday on the 14th. Creative Land, on the other hand, is done. We have a recommendation from them. Again, I think you're familiar enough with what's in the application. There are two things: the rezoning of 265 acres plus the special use permit for a hotel for the inn they propose on the property. If you want me to run through any of the particulars on that, I'd be happy to. We did have a public hearing in the planning commission at their last two meetings, and the planning commission has recommended approval of those with conditions. We have some proposed changes to those conditions. One of them we might want to wait for.
Is Rick gonna be here before the
We
meeting?
just left him in another meeting and he said he would be here by 4.
Right.
He's coming
So-
from Sonoy, so.
Yeah,
just got something
he
done.
was concerned about traffic. He got called into the meeting, so I know
So
that.
how does that work if? I mean, I want to discuss this
Let's do
before
come
it
back to this
cancels.
when he
Okay.
comes. Because I agree, it's good to have him around to have that. And the special use permit goes with that one, so we can talk about those together when he gets here. The next one is 23-059, which is Hamlet rezoning. Again, Mike.
Right, so this is Serenby, 202.83 acres on Sardis Road. It backs up to the recently rezoned Simpson property. So that's its connection to the hamlet. And this has come in without a proposed concept plan. So council's not being asked to approve the concept plan, but just a rezoning, which would mean that those the development rights that come with us would be applicable within the community, but there wouldn't be within the hamlet, but there wouldn't be there's no proposed development on this property at this point. I think they will, and they'll have to come back to you for that approval. But what it would do is, what we can say in the meantime is that, of course, there would be buffers required around this property, and that at least another 400 and some odd acres would have to go through the protection. It's almost 142 acres, just shy of 142 acres required with this property to meet the 70% requirement. So no site plan to respond to. That would potentially come at another point. If you don't approve anything, nothing would happen on this property, on this particular property.
And Mike, the applicant, the advantage, why you'd like this approved now is,
For the, for the development rights.
okay.
Anything that the developers in the room, anything that you guys want to say about it while we're? Okay,
Should be straightforward.
Well, answer any questions.
Yes.
yeah. Generally speaking, I think what I've heard
Yeah,
you've been talking about,
Generally speaking, we're working on a development plan that would be low impact. Some of the like the way the non-scattered language works, it's actually easier for us to come forward with a 250 unit hamlet than like like 30 lots that have low impact. So we're just working through, we need a little bit more time to work through how that all works. But our intent is not,
Right.
Our intent is to have, you know.
Most of the
around-
development rights go to the main hamlet.
Exactly.
Okay,
similar to the last one.
Exactly.
okay.
Rick, welcome to our meeting.
Thank
you. Appreciate, and I'm sure that you probably broke laws getting here, so I appreciate that. We are
Where's
going
the
to,
chief? No, I did not.
we're going, in other jurisdictions. I'm gonna ask you to take a deep cleansing breath. And now that we're all calm, we had one that we wanted to talk to you about. So, on the, well, two things, and I just want, again, your confirmation on this. We got the constitutional, whatever they call that, the
Reservation
constitutional,
of rights.
right, for the Merrill project. And we've talked about this before. That's a fairly common thing for a large development.
It's required of the attorneys committed malpractice.
Okay, well, there you go. But it basically is just setting out their understanding of the constitutional rights and that they could sue us if we don't follow the constitution of the state. So then there were a couple questions on the creative land use rezoning. We had been talking about two things, right? So we know that this is a three-phase project and some of these things are going to be happening over the course of time. And because of that, some of our language that has reversions that happen more quickly than we already know what their plan is going to be don't really work. And I know that they've talked to several of the council members, I think, tried to get to all of them about that. And so the things that would be responsive to that are twofold. One, in condition 12.
What page are we?
Page 3.
Of the conditions,
Of the
but that's,
Page 3. Looks like about halfway in between the big packets.
45 and 46 is the agenda item.
Three of the conditions.
yeah, page 3 of the conditions, item 12. Hang on just a second. There's a 6-month reversion clause on the development agreement. That in this context, where we're not even sure that they're doing extra units, then would even need that agreement. And also given their timeline, just doesn't really fit this zoning. This rezoning, and so the conversation we've had is about removing the last sentence of 12. Which takes away that requirement, doesn't change anything else for them, doesn't change their zoning at all. And then the other issue that's come up is around the special use permit for the hotel, again, because we know that's in the third phase. Special use permits expire under our zoning in 24 months, right? But we know that they're absolutely not going to be building this until the third phase, which is years down the road.
Tom, which condition is that?
This is
On
the
the hotel-
condition,
oh,
this is
okay.
just, this is a
General,
zoning,
okay,
a thing that's in our zoning.
gotcha.
And the way to resolve that, I just want to make sure that you're okay with the form of this, is to add another condition. That basically says, notwithstanding the section of the code that has that reversionary language in it. This special use permit will not expire until December 1, 2038, because they've said about 15 years is where they think this is going to be happening. And so that lets that special use permit ride that long. And I think we can do that as a condition, but I want your approval.
Well, first of all, the answer to the question about the last sentence in section 12, you certainly can take that out.
Okay.
If that's the wish of council. To extend the 24-month.
He's just
I'm
giving you a
sorry.
microphone.
My sound guy's working for me. That's more questionable, Mayor. whether
So,
we have,
do you
you
have the
know,
language of the
this,
ordinance?
this is what I would suggest doing. You gonna vote on this today?
Yeah, and I wanted Mike maybe to show you the language of the ordinance. Because the ordinance allows the council to do this, to extend it
Okay,
after 24 months. Is what it says in the ordinance, and then we can extend it as long as we want to then. And they're just asking for us to do that today, basically. Which again. gives
oh, yeah, yeah,
context.
absolutely. With the language of this, then the council can't extend it to a date that's beyond the 24 months, because the last phrase there, unless the permit is extended by resolution of the city council, so.
So can we do that? Do we
Yes.
need to do that as a separate resolution or just as a condition of zoning here?
I would make it clear in the vote today.
As
that
a,
As a condition that the council wishes, if the council wants to.
yeah.
To extend that deadline to something after the 24 months.
Okay, perfect. All right. And so again, right, we knew what their timeline was going into this. Does everybody think that's okay as a way to resolve that for them?
I don't have any
I'm
issue with
fine
that.
with it.
I'm fine. Was that a yes or? I heard it.
Of course, I'd like more time to take a look at it, so but that's, I don't have time. I see it like that.
I mean, again, this is all the stuff about the project that we've been talking about anyway. This is just aligning our documents with what.
And,
talking
and
about.
Tom, so if the condition's not there, the special use permit for the hotel lasts for 12 months, and at that point, the 24 months, 2 years, at that point, the council can readdress it and decide to extend it. So what is the value? Is it just a comfort level for them in getting financing?
Yes.
Okay, that if we do it today, okay.
In this tough environment.
The lending environment is challenging. I mean, it's,
And I mean, if they don't go with the hotel for some reason, they can't get the funding, it's no
It doesn't cost us.
cost us to anything,
Yeah.
okay.
it'd be nice to have a hotel.
It's just giving them the right, making sure that they understand the thing. Richard, no thoughts? Ruby?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, so I'll just ask for those amendments. Again, Rick, do I want to do that timing out thing as a condition or just as a statement?
I would make it. It's got to be included in a part of the vote.
Okay,
So included as one of the as a statement or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
You know, that's going to be voted on. Excuse me, I apologize.
it's just a modification and we're adding that language.
Right. It just needs to be voted on by council.
And Dana, that's that language that I sent you earlier. I'll read it when I'm.
And I had one other thing to ask Mike on that.
This is that language. This was not intended to that, but this talks about if it's a concept plan that continues during that time. It's allowed, you don't have to accept it.
This is.
Make sure they would accept, which doesn't.
Lori had a question.
You go ahead, finish your thought.
What I was showing him, the language in my printed zoning. Sorry, the language in my printed zoning that I showed him a minute ago had been amended in the amendment. I don't have that in my printout. I just handed him what the amendment was, where it can be extended also if it stays on a concept plan continually. I just wanted to make sure that the additional language where we say, except that it can be extended by concept plan, doesn't somehow change his answer on that. So he's
It
looking at
actually
that now.
makes it even better. So
Yeah.
no.
Okay,
Great.
perfect. And thanks, Mike. Good that we're working from the last.
Yeah.
version. So Lori. had a question.
And Mike, I called you last week and squeezed in a big fat question in your overworked time frame. But could you just go over again where it says number 12, that the owner will execute a development agreement? And you explained the development agreement is just essentially deciding which of the type of TDR options you intend to use. Is that
Yes.
right? So they don't actually have to purchase a TDR at that point in time.
That's
right?
correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
There's 3 basic processes you can use, and you just have to decide if you're going to use any of them before you get started, because we have to know To be able to keep track.
buildable, because one is prorated, so if you're gonna start to build,
That's
you
right.
need to know, right? Okay,
That's
gotcha.
right, yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rick, very much for. And then. The next one was the animal control, actually, Dana. Right? That's where we are.
Yes.
Sorry, we've been jumping around.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I like animals.
Okay.
Robo Robbie.
I love animals, yes. This is the intergovernmental agreement that luckily our attorney Rick Lindsay helped edit, because we receive it from the Fulton County every year. And we have to remind Fulton County that we have an agreement with rescue organization, Coco's Covered. That's our first resort. We go to them first because, you know, they try to rehome. So we take in the animals, and of course, Chief DeGoo has reviewed this. I've reviewed it, and Rick actually helped draft it and put it in the language. So we have to have 3 copies signed by our mayor and sent back to Fulton County. All jurisdictions in Fulton County have the same agreement. Ours is probably a lot different because we have this rescue society. I say that to say, I got to give kudos to Fulton County. You know, I know Mayor Pro Tem Lowe and also Council Member Foster went to the new animal shelter over on Fulton Industrial Boulevard across from the big UPS facility. And that's a $40 million facility. So if you're an animal in Fulton County, that's a place you want to be. I promise you. And if somebody kicks you out of your house this Christmas, tension gets high, you call them up. I mean, it's great. They might be able to stay in one of the shelters there because it's beautiful. So if you get a chance, go by and see it. December 2nd, a couple days ago, they had a big adoption event. They have like 376 dogs and cats that they are trying to adopt and get into homes and stuff. They also take in other livestock and such as chickens and goats and stuff. But
There's
anyway,
2 hogs, 2 piggies out there. aren't there?
yeah, so it's a great organization. However, it's going to be more convenient for our police officers. We still yield to Coco's Covered first and foremost. We know that there's some dogs that they don't take, but it was a boilerplate agreement, but we tweak it a bunch with our city attorney to make it more Chattahoochee Hills. So it's Chattahoochee Hills friendly.
So Robbie, is it still our responsibility to transport the animals? So if we see these 2 pigs, there's 2 pigs out there, we got to catch them before they'll take them, or?
No, it's animal control you for something like that, but we want everybody to still contact us first because it
First,
saves
okay.
that call for animal control. We get charged when they get
Yeah,
called. So
right.
we get charged
Okay.
if they respond. We prefer to respond first and assess it. It's almost like triage situation. And if we can handle the situation, we don't need animal control coming out. Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. 99% of the time they can. And we get some sweet animals in here, and sometimes they were in City Hall for a few hours, and some of us are like, hey, we're gonna take this animal home. But it's just a very animal friendly community. It's cool to work here, to have that kind of mentality here for the city, but our agreement is a little bit different than the rest. We still have to pay Fulton County. Everybody has to pay Fulton County. My understanding though, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but this wasn't tax dollars that we're using for the facility. This was more the other funds that they're using for the facility. So
DARPA or not.
And now that, Robbie, they were saying that, you know, if you couldn't take care of your animal, they would rather for you to bring it there, and if it's sick, and so that you can keep your animal at home.
Right.
So to get shots and stuff, you don't have the money to do it, bring it there, and then you could take it, you know, instead of putting it out on the streets.
yeah, go up there and take a tour. It's not far from here. Just go to Fulton Industrial, go past the airport, and it's right on the right. And you do yourself a treat to check this facility out.
Mhm.
I gave them a plug.
Mhm.
But that was that agreement.
Notice Ruby's very cool
Language looks good.
jacket thing. Awesome. Next up is the non-exclusive solid waste franchise and with GFL.
And Luke Ewing, who is with GFL, he is on the Zoom right now. So if you have any questions, he's listening and he can enter and enjoy. He can't be here for the council meeting. This requires a vote. It was going to be here last month, but myself and our city attorney had to review it a little bit more and get down to the nuts and bolts of it, because we wanted to make sure we emphasize, and Luke could agree, this is a non-exclusive agreement with GFL. So they don't have, you can use whoever you want, but they've got a new program in place. They got new trucks in place. They got new employees, new customer service model in place. Luke, he is by far the best person I'm saying it because he's online, but he is his representation of GFL, he is always responding to me. He's there. So if there's any problems, he probably doesn't want to be the go-to person, but he is a go-to person for this. So when you have problems with GFL, you know, he can help out with that. And so they're just looking to kind of, I know they went through a lot of transition and changes, but this is again, a non-inclusive, you get special pricing for Chattahoochee Hills. They do the billing. We don't do the billing. Our only relationship with them is the fact that we're allowing them to have a non-exclusive agreement. And our city attorney can weigh in as well. And Luke can jump in.
So I have a question for Luke.
Luke's on.
Of course.
Hey, Luke.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, so just this last week, another resident posted that they're having problems. So I went ahead and gave them your contact information. So when you have a different process you'd like us to use, if you'd let Robbie know, so if that's no longer the process or the way you want it handled, but apparently they're still calling them. And we're not.
There's a, there is a button that for people online that we got to hit for them
Your
to.
battery.
Oh, okay. I got it. I just hit the power button.
Okay, I can hear you now. Yep.
My bad.
And I heard exactly what you were saying. And so, yes, I will be the sole contact for the government contract. And so if there are any customer service issues that do arise, myself and
That's crazy. While we're waiting to.
We just want to put his number on the restrooms in here, Luke. Oh, no.
Hey,
Are you
Luke,
happy
can you hear
now
me?
with the-
yes,
I
yes, I
am-
can hear you.
I am
I
now,
don't know-
but
I don't
it's
know if
not
they can hear
exclusive
us.
And we're not involved in billing.
And we've taken all of the exclusivity kind of things out of it, yeah. Yes.
We got his number on the restroom here now, you know, okay.
Like that. Already too much trouble.